Have you ever been out in nature, maybe halfway up a trail somewhere or just sitting quietly by a lake and you watched a sudden thunderstorm roll in?
Oh, yeah, you get that weird sort of yellow light.
Right, exactly. The sky gets incredibly dark, the wind just drops completely dead, and the temperature takes a sudden nosedive. And right in that heavy, silent moment, right before the rain actually starts to fall, you get this eerie, primal sense that something massive is watching you from the sky.
It's actually a very specific, deeply ingrained human instinct. I mean, when the atmosphere shifts that violently, we just instinctively look up. You
Yeah.
feel small,
Yeah.
right? And you feel entirely exposed to, well, whatever's up there above you.
And usually it's just the storm clouds moving in. But for hundreds of years, in a very specific stretch of the Northeast, people have looked up during those exact moments and seen something looking back.
Which is just a terrifying thought.
It really is. So today, our deep dive is taking us straight into that remote, wild feeling of the high peaks and those hidden tree-lined lakes of the Adirondacks and Lake Champlain. We are investigating the persistent, terrifying, and just completely fascinating phenomenon of giant bird or thunderbird sightings.
And it's a phenomenal subject because, it forces us to navigate these really muddy waters between biology, regional history, and human psychology.
Yeah, totally.
We're looking at this incredibly specific set of environmental conditions that just seem to trigger these encounters over and over again.
Right. And to guide us today, we've got a stack of notes centered around a really incredible transcript from a regional nature broadcast that's been tracking these specific sightings.
Which is a great source, by the way.
It is, yeah. So our mission for this deep dive is to investigate why these massive winged creatures have been reported for literally centuries. We're tracing a line all the way from ancient Native American traditions to, modern-day hikers carrying high-tech gear. We want to uncover what is actually flying in the skies above you when the weather turns rough.
Because when you look at the sheer volume of reports over such a long timeline, it becomes clear that something tangible is triggering this, right? It's not just a passing fad.
No, not at all. And to understand what people are reporting today, we really have to start by exploring the deep historical and cultural roots of this whole phenomenon in the region.
Right, the older traditions.
Yeah. The source material highlights native traditions, specifically in the Abenaki and Iroquois-influenced areas of the Northeast. And in these cultures, the thunderbird isn't just like a big animal. It is a powerful storm spirit.
A literal bringer of the storm.
Exactly. The stories describe a creature with these enormous wings that literally create the thunder and eyes that flash like lightning. And the overarching message in these traditions is a warning. It's a respect the old tales, because these creatures are the storm bringers. They don't just fly in the storm.
They pull it behind them.
Yes, exactly. They pull it behind them.
What's fascinating here is how ancient spiritual lore often acts as this highly accurate container for, well, ecological memory.
Oh, how so?
Well, the native traditions are describing a creature intrinsically linked to violent weather, right? A being whose very movement alters the atmosphere. So saying its wings cause thunder is, it's a poetic, cultural way of describing a very real physical phenomenon, which is massive air displacement.
Massive air displacement.
Yeah, if a creature is large enough, the aerodynamic force required to just keep it aloft creates these low-frequency sound waves that human ears interpret as a deep, rumbling boom, like thunder.
Like thunder. Okay, hold on to that concept of massive air displacement, because it leads perfectly into these classic Adirondack accounts we have from the late 19th century logging era.
Ah, the lumber camp story.
Yeah, the sources mention these old-timers at the lumber camps who would talk about seeing a giant bird lifting off from a hidden lakeshore. But the detail that really stands out, the weird part, is that the bird was reportedly carrying an impossibly heavy load.
Something way too large for any normal bird of prey.
Right. And the air pressure from its massive wings flapping was so incredibly strong that it actually knocked heavy iron logging tools around on the ground.
Which is just wild to think about. But think about the physics of that for a second. To lift a heavy object, a bird's wings have to act like colossal airfoils.
Right. They have to push down.
Exactly. They must push a volume of air downward with a force greater than the weight of the bird and its cargo combined.
Wow.
So to generate enough localized downwash to actually scatter heavy iron tools, you aren't talking about like a 6-foot wingspan. You are talking about a wingspan that generates hurricane force localized winds.
That is insane.
It is. And it's a stunning mechanical detail for a lumberjack to just, invent out of nowhere.
It really is. It doesn't sound like typical folklore embellishment. And the source shares another incredibly vivid historical story about a couple of kids fishing at a stream in the woods.
Oh, this one is really chilling.
It is. So the sky gets dark, the wind picks up, and suddenly this huge bird swoops down over them. And the chilling detail here isn't just that it was scary. It's the math.
Right, the measurement.
Yeah. The kids reported that the bird's shadow was cast completely across the stream. And that stream was 25 to 30 feet wide.
Which is massive.
Massive. So they completely panicked, ran to the nearest house, and they dragged an older brother back to the spot. And when the older brother got there, whatever he saw or, felt completely spooked him too.
And that older brother is a vital piece of that narrative. It elevates the whole event.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it isn't just children getting scared by the woods anymore. It is an event profound enough to break the composure of a rational, older witness. It anchors their panic in something tangible.
Okay, let's unpack this for a second, though.
Yeah.
Because as much as I absolutely love a good monster story, I hear kids at a stream, and part of my brain immediately goes to the classic fish tale.
Ah, you mean like the fish was this big and then it gets bigger every time?
Exactly. Every time you tell the story, the fish grows another foot.
So you suspect the unreliability of memory under extreme stress.
I do, yeah. I mean, fear completely distorts how we perceive the world. If you're a kid and the sky is getting dark, the wind is howling, the whole atmosphere is already terrifying. Right?
Sure, you're already primed to be scared.
Right. So if a totally ordinary but large bird, like, say, a bald eagle swoops down really fast, couldn't that fear just magnify the bird in their minds?
It's a fair question.
I mean, think about making shadow puppets on a wall. If you hold your hand close to the flashlight, the shadow on the wall looks like a giant 30-foot monster. I kind of can't help but wonder if the weird looming lighting of an incoming storm is just, turning a normal bird's shadow into a nightmare.
I see where you're going with the shadow puppet idea. It makes intuitive sense. But let's look at the actual geometry of shadows outdoors.
Okay.
Shadow puppet effect works because the light source, your flashlight, is just a few feet away from the object.
Right.
But in nature, the light source is the sun, which is 93 million miles away. Because the light rays are essentially parallel by the time they hit Earth, an object in the sky casts a shadow that is roughly its exact same size.
Oh, wait. Really?
Yeah. Think about it. If a commercial airplane flies over you at 30,000 feet, you barely even notice the shadow, but it's not magnified. If a bird swoops low over a stream, its shadow is not being artificially magnified by the sun.
Never thought about that.
So to cast a solid block of darkness across 30 feet of water, the object itself must be practically 30 feet wide.
Wow. Okay, so the math on the sunlight actually makes sense if the bird is swooping right above their heads.
Yeah.
But I'm still stuck on the sheer panic. A 30-foot stream is a very specific yardstick to use when you're literally running for your life.
It is very specific.
And if this were just, 19th century kids and tired lumberjacks, I'd say case closed. It's just spooky folklore. But the broadcast transcript doesn't let us off the hook that easily.
No, it brings it right into the modern era.
Exactly. We have to move from historical folklore into the present day. Because modern, highly experienced outdoors people are out there right now seeing the exact same things.
And this is where the investigation demands to be taken seriously, I think. We are dealing with contemporary observational data from credible witnesses.
Yeah. The transcript details backcountry hikers near North Creek and these remote ponds in the Adirondacks. And these are people with modern gear, GPS, and a deep, deep familiarity with the woods.
The local fauna.
Right. They aren't going to mistake a crow for a monster. And they're reporting dark birds with wingspans of 15 to 20 feet or more. And just like the ancient native stories, they're seeing them circling specifically right before a storm hits.
It is the exact same behavioral consistency over hundreds of years.
And the sensory details they describe are terrifyingly similar, too.
Yeah.
Like they describe hearing a deep whoosh from the wings. It's that low-frequency sound wave you mentioned earlier.
Literally thunder from the wind.
Yes. And they say that for a fleeting second, the massive shadow completely blots out the sun. And the source emphasizes that these hikers are adamant these are definitively not average bald eagles or turkey vultures.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, we are looking at an unbroken chain of experiential data spanning centuries.
It's crazy.
It really is. Modern hikers who likely have, no deep knowledge of Abenaki oral traditions, are describing the exact same stormbringer conditions that those cultures talked about.
The deep whoosh, the sudden darkness.
Exactly. The correlation with severe weather. It strongly suggests an objective physical phenomenon is occurring here, even if it defies our current catalog of known species.
And it's not just deep in the backcountry woods either. The sources detail this Vermont account from the late 90s near the Massachusetts border. A woman watched 2 enormous birds in the afternoon sky.
2 of them.
Yet 2. And she didn't just catch a glimpse out of the corner of her eye. She watched them for a full 20 to 30 seconds before they flew off.
That is a long time in an observational setting.
Right. And over by Lake Champlain, you have boaters and people living right on the shoreline, describing oversized raptors, some even calling them pterosaur-like, lifting off from the shores.
Pterosaur-like. That's so interesting.
I know, right? We're talking about wingspans that absolutely dwarf anything on our official bird lists.
The phrase pterosaur-like is actually a brilliant example of how human cognition works.
What do you mean?
Well, when people encounter something that completely breaks their internal framework of reality, their brain frantically searches its mental filing cabinet for the closest visual match.
Oh, I see.
We don't have a mental file for a bird with a 20-foot wingspan, so the brain pulls the only file it has for a massive, leathery, angular flying creature, which is the dinosaur file.
That makes total sense.
Yeah, it tells us less about the creature being an actual prehistoric survivor and more about the sheer mind-bending scale of what these witnesses are trying to process.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting for me, though. We live in an era where literally everyone has a high-definition camera in their pocket.
The smartphone argument.
Exactly. If we have boaters on Lake Champlain and hikers in North Creek seeing something that looks like a literal dinosaur flying over their heads, where is the physical proof?
It's a fair point.
Right. Why do we only get these incredible descriptions and not a single, crisp, undeniable photograph?
It is the most common and frankly the most valid criticism of any modern anomalous sighting. The lack of a photograph is usually the point where skeptics just close the book.
And I used to do the exact same thing. But let's really think about this for a second. I want you, the listener, to put yourself in the boots of that hiker.
Okay.
Imagine you are standing on a trail. The wind is whipping up. The sky is getting bruised and purple. Suddenly, you hear a sound like thunder, and a shadow the size of a small airplane blots out the sun right over your head.
Terrifying.
You might have 15 to 20 seconds to react. In that moment of sheer, overwhelming shock, is your brain really going to say, let me smoothly unzip my jacket, unlock my phone with my thumbprint, swipe over to the camera app, and frame a nice steady shot?
Not a chance.
Or does your brain just freeze in complete fight-or-flight panic, like watching a meteor strike? You just stare.
You are describing the exact biological mechanism of survival.
Am I?
Absolutely. When your brain encounters a massive, unidentifiable physical threat, especially a potential apex predator dropping from the sky, your amygdala essentially hijacks your nervous system.
It just shuts you down.
It turns off the higher-level processing areas of your brain. The part of your brain that remembers how to operate a touchscreen goes completely offline, and all your body's energy is routed to your legs, your lungs, and your heart.
Wow.
Your only imperatives are to assess the threat and stay alive. So while it is frustrating for researchers, the absence of photographs during a sudden, terrifying 20-second encounter in the wild is actually entirely consistent with human biology.
That is fascinating. Okay, so if we accept that people are genuinely seeing something that triggers that primal freeze response, we have to try and synthesize all this data.
They have to categorize it somehow.
Right. Is it biology? Is it psychology? Or is it something entirely undiscovered? The source material introduces the work of Stan Gordon, who is a longtime researcher of anomalous events in the broader Northeast.
And he approaches this quite scientifically.
That does. He approaches this completely differently than just, collecting spooky campfire stories.
Right. Gordon treats the sightings like a meteorologist tracking a weather front. He maps them out geographically and temporally, looking for data clusters.
Exactly. He looks at the timeline and the map, and he has logged actual surges in these giant bird reports.
Surges, not just isolated incidents.
Right, we aren't just talking about a slow, steady trickle of myths over the decades. A surge means he might receive a dozen independent reports from unconnected towns along a single mountain ridge, all within a 3-day window.
Which implies movement, migration, perhaps.
Yes. And during these surges, he notes that these massive birds are often seen coming in incredibly low, right at treetop level and even near rural roads and populated areas.
This raises an important question about the boundaries we draw between the known world and the wild.
How so?
Well, we tend to view our official scientific records, our lists of categorized species, as an absolute finished document.
Like we found everything there is to find.
Precisely. But the Northeast wilderness, stretching from the Adirondacks up through the dense, largely unpopulated forests of Canada, is staggeringly vast.
It's huge.
If Gordon is tracking surges of low-flying, massive avian creatures that follow specific geographic ridges, we have to critically ask, is there room in that ecosystem for an undocumented, oversized raptor?
The broadcast transcript actually breaks down 3 main theories to explain what is happening here, which I think are a perfect way to frame this entire mystery.
Okay, let's hear them.
Theory number 1. These are just heavily misidentified big raptors like eagles or vultures. Theory number 2. It is something truly undiscovered living in those vast woods you just mentioned.
And theory 3.
And theory number 3. These are psychological echoes of ancient legends manifesting in the minds of stressed-out hikers.
Let's look at the psychological echoes first. We talked about the mental filing cabinet earlier.
Right, the dinosaur file.
Exactly. The concept of a giant, dangerous bird dropping from the sky is a primal fear. It is embedded deeply in our ancient threat library as a species.
So it's always in the back of our minds.
Yes. So if a hiker is already stressed by an incoming storm and they see a dark shape moving quickly through the trees, their brain might just fill in the blanks with that ancient, archetypal monster.
So what does this all mean for Stan Gordon's data then? If I'm pushing back on the whole undiscovered prehistoric bird theory, I look at his data about surges near roads, and I immediately think about urban sprawl.
Habitat encroachment.
Right. Human development is constantly pushing deeper and deeper into wild habitats. We are carving roads to places that used to be completely untouched.
We are intersecting with their hunting grounds.
Exactly. So what if this surge in sightings isn't a monster coming out of the woods, but just us crossing paths with ordinary wildlife more often?
It's a very grounded theory.
I'll champion the turkey vulture here for a minute. They are scavengers. They hang around roads looking for roadkill, and they have a pretty impressive wingspan, up to 6 feet.
That's a big bird.
It is. Now, take a modern person who isn't really used to being deep in nature, put them on a remote road, and then introduce the weird greenish-yellow diffused lighting of an incoming thunderstorm.
The spooky lighting again.
Right. Suddenly, an ordinary turkey vulture taking off from a carcass on the side of the road is visually magnified by the weird atmosphere, the person's unfamiliarity with the animal, and that deep-seated fear of the storm.
It becomes a monster in their mind.
Exactly. They aren't seeing a monster. They're just experiencing a perfect storm of bad lighting, urban sprawl, and a really, really ugly bird.
You make a very compelling case for the turkey vulture, and it absolutely accounts for a percentage of these sightings, I'm sure.
You think so?
Oh, definitely. When a bird is observed from below against a featureless gray storm sky, the human eye has 0 visual reference points for scale.
Oh, right, because there are no trees in the background.
Exactly. Without a tree or a building behind it, a 6-foot wingspan at 50 feet looks identical to a 20-foot wingspan at 200 feet. It is an optical illusion created by the blank canvas of the clouds.
See? The giant bird is just a vulture with a good publicist.
That's very funny. But we must test that theory against the specific physical data we've gathered from the sources.
Uh-oh, here comes the science.
Well, while the misidentification theory neatly explains a dark silhouette against a cloudy sky, it completely fails to account for the mechanical impacts we discussed.
The air pressure.
Right. A turkey vulture, no matter how bad the lighting is, does not cast a 30-foot shadow across a stream.
That's true.
A turkey vulture does not produce aerodynamic downwash capable of moving heavy iron logging tools.
No, definitely not.
And it certainly doesn't dwarf the known raptors in the eyes of experienced, lifelong boaters on Lake Champlain who watch eagles hunt every single day. They know what a 6-foot wingspan looks like. They're reporting something exponentially larger.
Which brings us right back to the edge of the unknown. And honestly, that's the beauty and the frustration of this deep dive.
It's a puzzle with missing pieces.
Yeah, it really is. We've journeyed from ancient Native American storm spirits, whose wings physically thunder in the lore, all the way to modern hikers freezing in their boots as a 20-foot shadow blots out the sun over the Adirondacks.
It's incredible continuity.
It is. We have theories ranging from the purely psychological to the totally undiscovered. But the one thing that is absolutely undeniable is that the sky over the Northeast is holding on to a very old, very dark secret.
It is a phenomenal intersection of history, the mechanics of weather, and the absolute limits of human perception.
So the next time you find yourself out on a trail or, sitting by the edge of a lake and you feel that sudden drop in temperature,
When the wind dies down.
right, when the wind dies down and a fast thunderstorm rolls over the mountains, you should absolutely look up. But as the regional broadcast warned, maybe don't look up for too long.
Before we conclude, I want to leave you with one final thought to explore on your own, kind of building on the evidence we've synthesized today.
Okay, lay it on us.
Throughout all the sources, from the Abenaki traditions to the modern hiker accounts, there is one relentless, undeniable variable.
The weather.
Yes, the weather. These massive creatures are almost exclusively seen circling right before a violent storm hits, accompanied by sudden shadows and a massive drop in barometric pressure.
They're the storm bringers.
Exactly. But let's look at the biology of that. Massive soaring birds alive today, like the Andean condor or the albatross, physically cannot flap their wings for long periods.
They're too heavy.
They are simply too heavy. To stay aloft without exhausting themselves, they require immense thermal updrafts and the violent shifting winds of pressure fronts to glide. They have to ride the weather.
Oh, wow.
Right. So if a bird with a 20-foot wingspan actually existed in the northeast woods, it biologically wouldn't be able to fly on a calm, sunny day.
Wait, really?
Really, it would be entirely grounded, hidden deep in the forest. It would only be able to take flight when the massive, violent updrafts of an incoming thunderstorm provided enough atmospheric lift to carry its weight.
Oh, wow. So the myth perfectly matches the biology.
It begs the question, are we merely projecting our fear of the storm into the shape of a bird? Or are we instinctively reacting to something ancient and undiscovered that is biologically adapted to only ride the violent, heavy winds of a breaking tempest?
Well, that is a terrifying thought to mull over. Something that is just physically trapped on the ground until the sky turns dark and the winds howl.
Waiting for the storm.
Yeah, think about that the next time you hear thunder rolling over the trees. Until next time, keep your eyes on the clouds, and thanks for joining us on this deep dive.